So, my name is Caitlin Smith, and today we will be discussing the semester's Riall Lecture Series speaker. I'm here with Danielle, and we're going to be talking about the lecture itself, what we thought about it, and then we read a couple of articles related to broadcasting in the classroom. We're going to talk about those as well. So, our speaker this semester was Rafe Esquith, and he's a celebrated teacher from Los Angeles, California. His ability to reach his students in unique ways is incredible. Rafe teaches 5th grade at Hobart Elementary, and the majority of his students are minorities who are English language learners. The neighborhood he teaches in is regularly plagued with gang violence and drugs, but Rafe has found a way to keep his students off of the street and have them develop a deep love of school and learning. In a school where 68% of students do not graduate, how does Rafe manage to do this? Well, one of the first things Rafe told us was that great teachers ask the difficult questions. Great teachers go beyond the basic curriculum and teach students the tough lessons that will allow them to be successful in the future. He doesn't believe in rewarding good behavior, so he often gets asked why his students choose to behave so well. He responded by telling us that he begins each school year with teaching students about Kohlberg's 6 stages of moral development. Stage 1 is doing the work to avoid trouble. Stage 2 is doing something in order to receive an award. Stage 3 is doing something in order to please the teacher. Stage 4 is doing something simply because it is the rule. Stage 5 is doing stuff out of respect for others. And then the 6th and final stage is when students internalize a code of behavior for themselves. So Rafe believes by forcing students to evaluate why it is they do the things they do, they're able to be held more accountable and then will opt to do things because it's what's right. He also believes as a teacher, you are the ultimate role model for your students, meaning that whatever you do is showing them what is acceptable. He treats his students with respect and as equals, and this is why they choose to behave. Rafe's teaching style is unique in a number of ways. To begin with, Rafe teaches his students all of the books that are banned from being taught in school, and his reasoning for this is that they're going to be exposed to this content from the books at some point in their lives anyway, so he would rather it be in his classroom so that he can provide the feedback and support they need. Rafe believes in teaching life lessons, and he does this in one way by teaching students how to handle money and pay bills. So with the help of a certain website, Rafe students learn about applying for jobs, earning money, paying rent and taxes, and property ownership. He also lets his student learn to play various instruments and perform Shakespearean plays. He believes when students can become passionate about something and express themselves through art and hard work, the work becomes so much more meaningful to them. So Rafe's students often cry at the end of the year when they have to leave him, and most of them keep in touch with them throughout their lives. How incredible it must be to become that close with your students and have that big of an impact on their lives. Rafe urges us to realize that teaching is not about how well you can get your students to perform on a test, but watching to see how far they've gone in life years after they've left your classroom. I think I can speak for all of us when I say that I hope when I'm a teacher, I can have that sort of effect on my students as well. Rafe is an extraordinary teacher in person, and I think we could all learn something from him.
Okay, so as Caitlin said, our Riall lecture speaker was Rafe Esquith. He's from a school in Los Angeles that most, like 92% are below the poverty level, and how the water is unsafe to drink in the school. A lot of the kids are surrounded by gangs and violence. But the one thing that Rafe talked about was his kids behaving so well without him being there, or even with on trips like to DC or New York, like 50 kids at a time with just him and his wife as the adults, or what is it? It's just as the adults, nobody else. How well they behaved, how they didn't act out, and they followed all the directions. He talked. One of the quotes he said for behaving so well is that us teachers need to be role models and be the person we want our kids to be. And he said to do this by example, not like if you want them not to act out, don't start yelling at them and everything like that. He also talked about not really caring about the exams at the end of the year, just focusing on teaching them stuff to where they'll be keeping it together in 2 years, if maybe what he teaches them will help them in 20 years to get a job and also help them go to college. He also talked about challenging the kids to evaluate their behavior in the classroom. He went through the 6 levels, and he talked about how getting to level 5 is the best thing to do because not everybody gets to level 6 because level 6 is the highest and is the hardest to do. He also talked about a couple of stories of his students that he had in the past. One of them was about Felix, who was known for his long hair, and when he went to high school, he he came back to visit Rafe, and when he visited Rafe, he had no hair, he was bald, and Rafe asked him why he cut his hair off, and he said because one of the kids in his high school had cancer and everybody was making fun of her, so he decided to support her by shaving his head. He also talked about at the end of the he talked about how one of his students when he went off to college, that he used to write him all the time. That at one point Rafe sent him money when he was in New York, where he went to college at NYC, I think it was, and how his student wrote him back saying that he didn't need to send him money, that he could do it on his own from all the things that Rafe taught him in elementary school. He also, at the end of his lecture, he talked about how one of his students wrote him a long letter that he reads every single day before he goes into the school in the morning, but how she really benefited from his teaching, what she learned she's used throughout her years after being in Rafe's classroom. One of the things I thought was interesting was that he used the website myclasseconomy.org throughout his classroom, which means that at the beginning of the school year, each kid gets money and they have to pay for they apply for jobs like being like the janitor, stuff like that. He also had them pay for their seat, so it means like they would have to pay for like mortgage on their house or apartment or whatever. They to get extra money, they either came in early or they did extracurriculars. To get more money or to like benefit from it, some kids would buy out other kids' seats and make those kids pay them instead of Rafe. And he also at the end of the year had them fill out tax forms to practice for when they get older. He also talked about his Shakespeare experience with them, how he mainly focuses on having his students perform different Shakespeare plays throughout every year, and how coming together with art and drama and music helps students learn better and helps them come together as a whole class. He also talked about how he reads to his kids every day. He talked about how he read like some of the banned books, how some of the books that he read to them are above their reading levels, but he didn't have them read by themselves. He read with them, and then he had a student read a couple of lines, and then he would read it again, and he would ask questions and talk to them about it to bring the book into their own experiences that they've had throughout their life. So overall, I think that listening to Rafe talk really taught me a lot, and hopefully I can use the stuff that he did in his classroom in my classroom in the future.
So I really enjoyed listening to Rafe. I thought that his ideas were, I mean, they were a little bit radical, but they obviously worked for him. I hope that I can use that kind of like vigor when I'm a teacher, because sometimes I think that we forget that it's not just about like teaching the material and testing them and making sure they're passing and doing all this, which obviously those things are important, but it's about like the life lessons that you can teach them. And
yeah,
the differences that you're going to make are with those students that you have a personal connection with, who feel like they can come to you if they need something, where you're more than just their teacher, you're their friend, you're, you know, all of that. So I think he had a really good way of doing that, and maybe not necessarily everyone agrees with what he does, but I think that we could all definitely learn something, and hopefully we can use some of his ideas when we become teachers.
Yeah, I feel like nowadays, especially where I came from in Montgomery County, teachers are focused more on the tests at the end of the year, bringing the test scores up, and how Rafe really only focused on making sure that the students knew what they were doing, knew about information that they could use in the future to help them get to college, to help them when they're older and have kids and own their own houses and stuff, especially of like the classroom economy, which I thought was a good idea. At first, I thought using it for fifth grade is kind of like too early, but at the same time, it helps them learn at a younger age, and they can learn more and more each year on how to like prepare themselves for when they have their own place and have their own kids, start their own families. Um, I feel like when I was younger, I out of all the teachers I've had, there was only a couple of teachers I had a personal connection with, and I feel like more teachers should be like that nowadays, especially with how kids are growing up in the world, and that would really help them succeed more. And like, if you have a better connection with the teacher, you can talk to them more. They can help you with work that you need help on, and then that going from that can help increase the test scores in the classrooms and schools and county.
Yeah, so it's not just about, teaching the material and all that. It's making the material meaningful to them. If you're just drilling them all day on these like facts, like that's not important to them. They're not going to worry about that. So I think his way of doing that was really good. And what was the one quote that he said that I thought was really good? He said that what he wanted to hear after every lesson was his students say, "Because I just learned this lesson, my life just got better." So I thought that was really cool. So I guess now we're going to talk about the articles that we read related to broadcasting. So the one I read, it's called Technological Pedagogical Content Knowledge in Action, and it was a study of middle school digital documentary project. So the basis of the article is that we're pushing so hard lately on integrating technology into schools, but you have to think about that it's not exactly just a cut and dry kind of thing. It's a little more difficult than just giving them a project and having them go running with it. So for this article, they did a little bit of an experiment with making documentaries in the sixth grade classroom. So they had two different teachers working together to make had their students make 5-minute documentaries in their history class about certain like people in history. That was the basis of the project, but the bigger part of it was them examining the ways the teachers were conveying that information and helping them make those projects. And one of the things that they really focused on is that we have to develop this knowledge that intersects in between content knowledge, pedagogical knowledge, and technology, and they have to be interconnected. So you have to have like a whole focus kind of approach when you're going into doing that. And so after they went through the projects and the kids did them, and they turned out pretty well, and they found little bugs here and there where they felt they could have worked better at it, but overall they felt the study was successful, but it just further proved that, yes, it is important that we're integrating this technology into the classroom, but we have to think about the way that we're doing it and making sure the way we're doing it is effective and it's meaningful. So that's pretty much what that one was about.
Okay, well, I read the article Learning in Hand about podcasting, and it basically just talked about having podcast episodes in the classroom where the teacher will let the students sit at their desk or go to the library or even on field trips and at home be able to watch live or even previous broadcasting episodes to help them learn and just watch other students who have made broadcasting episodes about like subjects in like math or science, history, and then I also talked about how students can create their own podcast and share it worldwide with students, adults, even researchers maybe, and how with them using the podcasting episode, recording it themselves is like an education. It benefits them in the education and it teaches them more and more about like the subjects or even just technology itself in the classroom, which I thought was a good idea. It also said that having a real world audience gives the students purpose and motivation to create a good product. So if the students only created it for like a peer or another class in their school, then they probably wouldn't have that much motivation and purpose into it, making it like a good video. They might make it not so well, like a poor video, maybe like a 5-minute video, not really talking about the subject that they are supposed to be talking about, or just doing like a brief summary of it, as where them talking to like different students or adults around the world helps them be motivated to do a good product, give enough information about the topic, and get good feedback from individuals. And then they also talked about how this process can be a cross-curricular experience, how it can go from one subject to another, and then it can blend two subjects together. So I thought reading this helped me learn a lot, and I feel like technology nowadays is kind of in the classrooms, but maybe having students do podcast episodes would help the teachers assess their knowledge on the subject instead of having like written tests. This can be another way of teachers having a test, like having them make a podcast with a student, like having them both do it or like just doing it themselves. The teacher can give them questions and they have to answer it through like a video, and then have other students or even other people around the world give feedback, and the teacher could take that and use it as an assessment and giving them a grade. So I thought this was a good article to read.
Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and stop it right there.
Okay.
But I think I want to kind of do it one more time just to have it like kind of flow a little bit better. But I think we did pretty well on it. So I think one more time is like it. I just need to try not to trip over my words this time, maybe. But I think we did pretty good about it because I think like we did both our like.
I think we did okay. You know, you still have it on, right?
Yeah, I know, but
Sure.
yeah, that one obviously isn't going to be ours, so I'm not really that worried about it. But yeah, just run through it again, how we have the little discussion part at the end, and then talk about our articles, and we'll be good. Right?
Okay.